Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are covering another NFL mock draft. This one is a lot of shakeups. There's a lot of things going on with this one, so make sure that you stay tuned for the rest of our NFL mocks leading up to the actual draft here at the end of the month. Now, looking at this one, some big shakeups for compared to some of my other drafts here. If you take a look at number one, I actually have Anthony Richardson going from Florida. You look at it from Sam Monson from PFF saying that he's arguably the greatest athlete at the quarterback position to ever have entered the draft, which this is super high praise. Obviously, when you look at Lamar Jackson as being as dynamic as he is, to say that Anthony Richardson's a better athlete is a very, very bold proclamation. However, I think Carolina is starting to kind of narrow it in. CJ Stroud has been in big consideration. We have obviously Anthony Richardson. I don't think Will Levis is really in play at number one. I think there's three guys that are at that top spot, none of which are Will Levis, but top three quarterback prospects, Richardson, Young, and CJ Stroud, all in consideration. However, I think Carolina is going to opt to lean a little bit more towards Anthony Richardson in this one. When you look at his big time arm, the athleticism, all of it is a culmination for a great recipe to be a superstar quarterback in this league. He's definitely right. He's got a lot of things to work on throughout the course of his rookie year and his second year in the league. There's going to be a big learning curve. However, I think Carolina opts to go in this direction. Number two, I have Bryce Young going to the Houston Texans, which is a little popular in my opinion. When you look around the NFL mocks, I think Bryce Young being number two is a very, very popular bet. Right now, he's actually the favorite to go number one overall for DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that he will go number two, and Carolina's going to stick with Anthony Richardson, and then Bryce Young going to the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, there have been some rumors that they aren't really considering a quarterback. I think this is a potential smokescreen. To me, they're going to go quarterback in this draft. I just don't see them kicking the can down another year and waiting on the next round of quarterbacks. Is there a possibility that they look at a guy like Will Anderson in terms of how dominant he's been in his career? Absolutely. But I don't think that's the case here. At number two, Houston Texans are going to go ahead and select Bryce Young. Not an ideal frame. However, when you look at his pocket presence, his poise, his accuracy, once again, all together coming to be an elite franchise quarterback for DeMeco Ryans and this staff, they're looking for someone to lean on at that position. Number three, we have Will Anderson. Now, when you look at Will Anderson, he's been dominant, absolutely dominant. And you can see here the last 3 years, he's ranked first, and second in quarterback pressures. I think when you look collectively, the amount of pressures that he brings to the table, he's so effective against the run, and he's a phenomenal pass rusher. This guy is different. This guy is the best defensive player in the class. I know a lot of people like Jalen Carter. However, I think Will Anderson brings those top end tools. The technique, everything is exactly what you want in an elite edge rusher. I think Arizona, if they end up sticking here, are going to go with Will Anderson to help build up that defense. Now, if you take a look here, this is the amount of defensive linemen drafted since 2010 from each school. Alabama at 20, Ohio State at 19, 16 is LSU. There's a lot of different guys that have come from the top SEC schools, more specifically when you look at LSU and Alabama, but you also have some of the ACC schools in there as well. But Alabama has been churning out defensive linemen. I just wanted to share this with you just so you kind of get an idea who defensive line you has been over the last 13 years. So really interesting statistics on that one. Now we have number four, which is the Indianapolis Colts, and I have CJ Stroud from Ohio State going. A lot of people have been enamored with the idea that Will Levis will be the starting quarterback for the Colts. I think the Colts opt for a different direction here. CJ Stroud has done basically everything right in terms of the pre-draft process, the interviews, the workouts, everything has worked out in his favor. And I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to be looking for a guy that, can provide some stability at the position, deliver the ball accurately and on time. And overall, that's exactly what the Colts are getting out of him. He's going to have a nice complementary run game. You have Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, some nice weapons for CJ Stroud to walk into and potentially try to win a division in the AFC South, which isn't super strong. Now at number 5, we got Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. I think when Seattle is kind of collectively looking at their draft board, they're going to look at this guy and say he plays with an edge. This is exactly the kind of guy we want on the back end. Him and Tariq Woolen are going to be amazing together. This secondary is going to start to remind you a little bit of the Legion of Boom, something that's been slightly overstated over the last couple of seasons. However, I think in this kind of situation, Devin Witherspoon plays with an edge, long, lengthy. This guy can definitely win in man coverage, good at tracking the ball, and one of the premier corners in all of college football. He's very worthy of being a top 5 selection, in my opinion. Following that up, we have the most controversial player in the entire draft, in my opinion, Jalen Carter. Off the field issues. That is something that I thought was going to really, drop his draft stock. At the same time, however, his on-the-field talent is undeniable. In the NFL, there's times where you have blurry lines of morality and things of that nature. I think Detroit's going to feel like they're a great fit culturally. You can bring in a lot of different guys, in that system, and they're going to perform well, not only on the field, but off the field. I think they have a good support system. You look at the front office, you look at the coaching staff, they've done a nice job, really putting together a collective unit of great players, great staff members, great front office members, all of which could be a nurturing environment for a guy like Jalen Carter, who's so dominant on the field. Just off the field, there's a couple of different question marks in his quote decision making. Now, this is all relative here, but at the end of the day, I think Detroit Lions will go ahead and be super aggressive with this one. They're going to see a player as talented as Jalen Carter and get him for the trenches. Next pick here, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be my selection here. I think when you consider the Raiders, there's a lot of things that didn't go right for them necessarily last season. Offensive line was a big concern. They've had some issues with the offensive line in recent seasons, but getting arguably the best pass protector in the entire class makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. He's going to provide some great stability at the tackle position. He's not going to let any edges get the hands on the quarterback. In the run game, he's very solid as well, but the big pro for him and selecting him is his elite pass protection, great footwork, great extension, all of which being, I think the Raiders are making the correct selection here. At number 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons, who have been seeking out some edge rushing help. And Tyree Wilson is going to be the guy that changes the narrative that they can't get to the quarterback. I think Atlanta's going to have a little bit more of a focus. They've built a very nice offensive line for themselves. Now it's just the defensive line they got to continue to work on. You think about a little reminiscent of the days of Vic Beasley. Tyree Wilson is a different kind of prospect. Very sturdy, great against the run, and he can hold his own against any tackle or guard that's ever been thrown at him. Tyree Wilson is a nice prospect that doesn't get talked enough about. He's not super flashy. However, he just makes seemingly the right play every time he's on the football field. Atlanta is getting a terrific prospect here at number 8. At number 9, Chicago. What better way to continue to aid the development of a guy like Justin Fields than getting Peter Skoronski, the most pro-ready offensive tackle in the entire class. Northwestern has done a nice job churning out some offensive linemen. Him, Rashawn Slater, 2 of the latest examples of top-tier prospects at that position. And I think Peter Skoronski is going to step in and be a true impact player day number 1. Very well could think of him as a borderline Pro Bowl level guy in his rookie season. To me, Peter Skoronski is one of those eye-openers for the Bears. Number 10, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Now, Lucas Van Ness, his actual sack numbers won't completely blow you away. I think he had like 7.5 his junior season, which was his final year at Iowa. But when you look at the testing numbers and everything, ran very well at the combine. He's a twitchy athlete, and he is a player that I could see Philadelphia continue to rebuild that front seven and reconfigure it. This team is super, super close to pushing it over the edge to become a Super Bowl champion. I think this pick goes a long ways in doing so. What playoff teams can, really look at it and say, hey, we were super close in contention. Obviously they almost won the Super Bowl last year. They were right there. And with the Philadelphia Eagles, they are in a position where they have a top 10 pick to supplement the roster. Lucas Van Ness, huge impact guy, Dave, number one, can get after the quarterback, phenomenal against the run. Overall, he's got a great motor on him. So collectively speaking, once again, this is a good selection for Philadelphia. Number 11, we have the Tennesse Titans. Tennesse Titans taking Quentin Johnston. I look at Quentin Johnston as a player that is slightly undervalued in this year's class, a terrific route runner. He's pretty much the total package in terms of what you want as a receiver. When he measured in at the combine, wasn't as tall as people had thought he was. A lot of people thought he was going to be in that 6'4", 6'5" range potentially. I think he came in at 6'2.5". So that wasn't as fun when they did the measurements there, but Quentin Johnston is going to be a big impact receiver that is going to help out with this offense that desperately needs more playmakers. When you look at what they have offensively, Derrick Henry is obviously the driving unit behind this offense. However, I look at Treylon Burks as another impact player. You add Quentin Johnston into the mix that can create a little more pressure on the defense with, his outstanding route running. Tennessee has to try to stay in contention here for the division. Once again, this is their window with Derrick Henry's Hall of Fame career. They need to make another push. Quentin Johnston helps them in doing so. Number 12, we have the Houston Texans, and I have Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State going to this team. One of my favorite picks in the draft, in my opinion. I love the idea of pairing, a young quarterback with a phenomenal route running receiver. One of the quickest receivers. He doesn't necessarily have the long speed, but when you look at some of his agility and the short area quickness, this guy can make defenses very, very tired throughout the course of a game. He's going to be a monster underneath. A lot of open throws are going to be made to him because he creates so much separation with his route running ability as well. So some awesome route runners in this class. Houston does a great job with this selection. Now at number 13, Broderick Jones from Georgia. Now I look at the New York Jets as a destination for Broderick Jones because Joe Douglas has put such an emphasis on the tackle position. Broderick Jones fits into the mold of exactly what he's looking for. Guys that can get downhill, guys that can get out into space and create open running lanes. And I think when you look at Broderick Jones and what he embodies as a prospect, that fits the mold. New York Jets are going to continuously look to build their trenches. That's one of their core philosophies in terms of team building. I think the Jets are going to go ahead and make another move there. They've already invested high draft picks into offensive linemen. We've seen it with AVT. We've seen it with Mekhi Becton. Now add Broderick Jones to the list of other prospects that they are taking big swings on in the first round. Number 14, one of my favorite picks as well. It's Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. And the New England Patriots continue to draft corners that are long, lengthy, great man guys. And this is exactly what Christian Gonzalez can be for them. In terms of his actual athleticism, this is one of the top tier athletes in the class as well. I like New England in this situation. They want to build up that defense. They want to build up that corner room. Seemingly it's a revolving door whenever it comes contract time. They seemingly are okay with moving on. They like keeping the cornerback room. They'd like to invest in it, but maybe not in terms of actual dollar amounts. They have no problem committing some draft capital to said position. I think this is exactly where New England's going to want to go. A couple of corners that will fit the mold for them, but Christian Gonzalez, they're very happy to get here at 14. At number 15, we got the Green Bay Packers, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. A monster yards after the catch guy. He is one of those guys that has a really good catch radius as well. Green Bay is going to be looking to continue to add pieces around Jordan Love. They have some nice weapons in the run game, some nice weapons in the passing game. Adding a guy like Christian Watson was huge last year, and now you continue to build upon that and get a guy like Michael Mayer at tight end. Number 16, we have the Washington Commanders. I got O'Cyrus Torrence here from Florida, a guard that is phenomenal in the run, probably the best run blocking guard in the entire class. Holds his own in pass protection, is going to continue to get better at that at the next level. But the Commanders here taking advantage of getting a guard that's super talented. Now, the guard position is a little less valued typically in the draft, so they'll slide a little bit. But when you look at an overall prospect, Torrence definitely stands out amongst all of the guards. They're definitely missing Brand Sheriff. Losing him to Jacksonville was a big deal. They have to go ahead and supplement that with this selection here in the first round. Number 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been seeking out offensive line help for quite some time. Darnell Wright from Tennessee is a terrific pick. He's been gaining a lot more traction in the mock draft community as of late, and selecting him here makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Mike Tomlin, and this crew need to make sure that they get the offensive line right. They struggled to run the ball last year, and this will help them go a long ways in terms of trying to fix and address that offensive line heading into this season. Darnell Wright is a name you need to continue to watch as draft day quickly approaches. Number 18, we have the Detroit Lions, Deonte Banks from Maryland. Deonte Banks is another one of those high risers at the end of the class here. Once again, a good man-to-man guy, good ball skills. Detroit just traded away Jeff Okudah. This is a telltale sign that they found a guy in the draft that they really like. This roster is going to continue to get better. Obviously, signing Sutton in the offseason helped them out, but Deonte Banks is another guy that they can rely on for many years to come. Super reliable corner, and Detroit continues to build up this defense, which is a big must for them moving forward. Number 19, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is in a desperate need, in my opinion, for a tight end. Ever since the departure of Gronk, who was a shell of himself at the time, they've been missing that tight end spot. They've been missing some dynamism from the position. And regardless of what position what way they go in terms of the quarterback direction, it's going to be critical that they get a tight end. Once again, Dalton Kincaid is very similar to Michael Mayer in a couple of different aspects. A huge catch radius. This guy can track down the ball, knows how to contort his bodies in different angles in order to make some of the spectacular catches that you've seen him make at Utah. Now, the big debate is it him or Mayer as tight end one? I think it really depends on the team that you ask. I don't think it's clearly obvious to an entire community who's number one. I think schematically, a couple of different changes there. Tight end is a tough one to figure out at this spot, but to me, Tampa Bay would be doing themselves a huge service by selecting Dalton Kincaid. Terrific prospect and a well worthy of a first round selection. Next one here, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle continues to build up that defense. Edge Nolan Smith from Georgia, one of the best athletes in the entire class. When you look at his straight line speed, strong, athletic, he's the total package. And Seattle likes to take some risks on some guys that maybe a little bit raw right now, but his upside is incredible. Seattle is going to continue to build this defense for the better, and I love this pick for them. A total Schneider pick here at number 20. At number 21, Tom Telesco is sitting here with a difficult decision on what to do at that receiver position. They have, Mike Williams, they have Keenan Allen, but in addition to that, they could add a guy like Zay Flowers, who in my opinion is the best wide receiver in the entire class. I think he might slide a little bit due to his frame. However, there's been some big buzz that he could be wide receiver one in the draft. Zay Flowers is going to continue to, progress here as a prospect, but his dynamism on the offensive side of the football is incredible. Yards after catch, separation on route, all of it culminating to be a phenomenal player year one for the Chargers in a division that is high flying, especially when you have Kansas City there. You have to go ahead and take some chances on some prospects. So Zay Flowers is the perfect fit into this Chargers offense. At number 22, Joey Porter Jr. goes off the board to the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is a physical team defensively. They've added a couple of different pieces here in the offseason, but in that corner room, I think it's going to be important for the future to address that once again. Joey Porter Jr. continues to, gain traction as the draft gets closer. Physical man-to-man guy, got the nice 6'2" frame, long arms, can really jam receivers at the line of scrimmage, which is unsurprising considering who his father was. Joey Porter Jr. is the ultimate Baltimore Raven. Not only is it a positional need, especially now and in the future, but also just great value for the draft slot at number 22. Love this for the Baltimore Ravens. I think they get this one right. At number 23, we have the Minnesota Vikings, another team that is desperately seeking some help in that corner room with the departure of Patrick Peterson. There's going to be a heavy reliance on second rounder Andrew Booth Jr. from last year and a Caleb Evans as well from last season, who was a rookie. I think that's a lot of pressure on those guys. You have to go ahead and address the corner spot one more time in the draft. Cam Smith from South Carolina, one of my favorite prospects. Another guy that is a man-to-man centric cornerback. Does a great job getting his head around on the football. Not going to draw a ton of penalties at the next level. Exactly what the Vikings need. Need a little bit more consistency on the back end, especially heading into this season. They'll have Lewis Cine back, who was out basically all of last season. So I love this for the Minnesota Vikings. Number 24, we got Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, with the departure of Arden Key, the potential departure in the future here of Josh Allen, who's going into his contract season. This tells me that BJ Ojulari is the ideal selection for the Jags. A little bit of a cautionary tale, to be completely transparent here. They selected Kayvon Chaisson from LSU. BJ Ojulari is a better prospect than Kayvon Chaisson. Now, obviously looking at it in hindsight, but Ojulari is going to be another guy that can, get after the quarterback at an effective rate. His win percentage is going to be rather large in the NFL. I think a little higher than people are expecting in terms of win pass rushing percentage. Jacksonville here is desperately seeking some more pass rushing help, and I think with Trent Baalke's draft history, it makes all the sense in the world to go ahead and select a guy like BJ Ojulari. Now we are at 25. We got the New York Giants, Jordan Addison from USC. And when you look at Addison and what he's been able to accomplish in his career, had a tremendous amount of success at Pitt, transfers and goes to USC to play with Caleb Williams, and he was awesome there. Another route running technician. We seem to have a lot of those in this class, but the New York Giants have to get a little more dynamic on the perimeter. That's exactly what Jordan Addison's going to do. They've put a significant financial investment in Daniel Jones. They have to show that it's going to pay dividends by helping him out at the wide receiver position, which he didn't have a ton of it last season. Number 26, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, to me, are in a prime position to select Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is a top 10 prospect in the entire class. However, when you look at it here, positional value, people don't value running backs like they used to. Therefore, he's going to fall a little bit, and Dallas is always down to take a guy regardless of position, as long as they're super talented. That is the case here. Keeping him in Texas, Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard are going to be an awesome 1-2 punch for many years to come. I love what the Dallas Cowboys are able to do with this one. I think is a very realistic outcome. 27 here, we got the Buffalo Bills. I have Jahmyr Gibbs actually going to Buffalo. Now, I think this is going to be a little bit of a shocker considering what they've tried to do with that, that running back room, but Jahmyr Gibbs is so talented in the receiving game. He's an elusive runner, breaks tackles through and through. I think Buffalo is going to see the value in that and try to essentially take that offense to the next level. Jahmyr Gibbs going to Buffalo is a scary thought considering how talented of a prospect he is and exactly how Buffalo had struggled a little bit in that run game. Number 28, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Anton Harrison from Oklahoma is the pick. A team that continues to struggle along that offensive line, whether it's the tackles, the guards, it doesn't really matter. Cincinnati hasn't been able to figure it out, collectively speaking. With Duke Tobin, I'm not exactly sure if this is the game plan, but I think this is where they would lean and would opt to go. Love this pick for them. Anton Harrison is a tough, gritty, offensive tackle. It's going to serve them very well in pass protection. At number 29, a little bit more of a change up here, Josh Downs from North Carolina. When you look at actual acceleration and short area quickness, again, this guy is a burner. Josh Downs can do a lot of different things for an offense, make them so much more dynamic as well. Chris Olave, Josh Downs, this is going to be a dangerous group at the receiver position. They're in a good spot here where Derek Carr can have a lot of success, especially with some of the weapons around him. These guys, Alvin Kamara as well. New Orleans is in a prime position to upgrade that offense. At number 30 here, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, the Philadelphia Eagles, again, are going to look to add to their defense. Their defense has been so good over the last couple of seasons. You go all the way back to their Super Bowl run. Howie Roseman stays aggressive here, selects Brian Branch, who very well could have gone in the teens. Sometimes the safeties tend to slide down a little bit, depending on how the board falls. But to me, Philadelphia Eagles here at number 30, going with Brian Branch, is a top tier pick. This is a great selection for them. Howie Roseman gets another guy in the back end, and they're going to be dangerous defensively next season. Finally, at 31, surprise, surprise, we have Kansas City Chiefs going with Jalen Hyatt. This is exactly what they're looking for to add into their offense. Their offense is predicated on speed. Look at guys that they've selected in the past and that they've brought into camp in the past with Pacheco. We remember when they had selected Mecole Hardman. Obviously is not here anymore, but they're going to try to replace Tyreek Hill as they continue to do so. They're not going to be afraid to select another dynamic receiver, and Jalen Hyatt just produces at a high level, especially his final year at Tennessee. So collectively, Kansas City adds another dynamic weapon into this offense. Thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate your time. If you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy the content. It was a lot of fun presenting this to you. Hope that you guys enjoyed what you saw. Let me know in the comments section below who your favorite prospect is in the first round. Very curious to see that, and I will be responding. So thanks again for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.